Wolfpack Nation, thank you so much again for tuning back in here with us for part 2 here of our conversation here talking about women's basketball. So if you haven't checked out part 1 yet, make sure to go check that out. As again, we talk a lot about kind of what's thoughts about the season so far, or the season overall in general, I guess, obviously, and then talking about the NCAA tournament, the UConn game. So now we're going to be actually getting more into kind of basically giving out some end of season awards / superlatives, things of that nature. Before we get rolling into that, make sure again hit that subscribe button as it really helps support us, and also make sure that you don't miss out whenever we release new NC State content. Give this video a like, so that way YouTube will put this video in front of more NC State fans, and also to give us a follow at Tuffy Talk Now on Twitter or Instagram if you haven't already. So jumping right into it. So we're giving out basically 5 awards today, and that's starting off with we're gonna do offensive MVP, then we're gonna do defensive MVP, then we're gonna do most improved, then we're gonna do one called Ice Woman, which basically is the most clutch player this season, and then we'll end it off with. Well, we may just start off with the MVP, probably, even though obviously MVP is kind of the biggest award, give or take, but I think it's not really the biggest conversation. So maybe we'll just go ahead and knock out MVP to start this thing off. So I mean, I think, we could all say unison who the MVP is, obviously with Alyssa Cunane. It's kind of one of those funny things though. And this is one thing I wanted to kind of talk about is that, like, when you kind of think about the season overall, you kind of think to yourself, like, I don't really know if Cunane really had her best season. And just overall, like, there was a lot of games this year where she really started off struggling games, and then she would pick it back up, later in the game. But I mean, she still actually shot, believe it or not, she actually, so last year she shot 53.3% from the field. This year she shot 53.1% from the field. So I mean, she still shot the ball generally the same, but in terms of points, so last year she averaged 16.3 points a game. This year she averaged 13.7. Last year, 8.3 rebounds. This year, 7.6 rebounds. And you say, well, she played a lot less minutes. Well, she actually only played on average 1 minute less this year than she did last year. So it's that basically that tells me that basically she shot the ball less this year than she did last year, which makes sense. I mean, obviously we've added a couple of pieces, and I mean, obviously with some of the other pieces, we're trying to get them more involved. So, I mean, that's that. So I guess this conversation for this point really isn't necessarily who's MVP, but more of kind of thoughts, in terms of Cunane's season in general. But I mean, she was still, first team All ACC, second team All American. So, I mean, it's like we're really just nickeling and diming here. But that was just kind of one thing I think throughout the season I was kind of thinking about was like, Cunane's not having her best season, but statistically, I mean, she's right there in general in terms of shooting the ball. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's you also have to take into account like the impact she has on how the defense plays too, because she is so good that the defense is going to key in on her, and that may force her to give up the ball more, which we did see a lot this season. Kick it out and for a 3 or something. So yeah, like you said, like her stat line doesn't jump out at you like some of the other great players in the country, but her impact was definitely MVP worthy.
Absolutely. Greg, you have anything to add to that? I mean, are you going to shock the world and give the MVP to somebody else?
I mean, if I had to give it to someone else, I probably would give it to Kai Crutchfield.
Really?
I mean, if you're going to pick someone else, just everything that they mean. And obviously we'll get into some of the other things about her in some of the other categories, because I'm sure her name will pop up there. But just her all around game, just the way her calming presence, her lockdown defense, getting baskets when you needed them. Just again, if you're going to pick someone other than Cunane, that would have been probably my choice.
Okay.
But there's so many names there that, I mean, you could even say Diamond Johnson, with, her ability, both on, scoring the ball, defense, everything. So, but if I'm going to pick someone, I probably would have gone Kai Crutchfield if I wasn't, but it is Cunane for
sure. Yeah. And I mean, she shot on average from the free throw line 83.5%, and she also shot almost 42% from the 3, which is ridiculous for a 5 player for a center. So,
and it wasn't like she just took like 10 threes all season. Like she shot a good amount.
She shot a good amount of threes. So, yeah, no, absolutely. So, and one other point, which
13 to 31 to be exact.
15 to 31. Yeah. So, I mean, that's
13 to 31. 13 to 31.
So yeah, I mean,
that's a good number for a big person.
Very impressive. Yeah. No, because I mean, again, like look at like Aaliyah Boston, who just won the Naismith Player of the Year. She does not shoot 3-pointers. She doesn't. So I mean, It's kind of that's kind of one of the things that for me, if you're the WNBA, you're looking at Kune is that she could really stretch defenses. She can really stretch defenses. And honestly, too, I could say that. I mean, I know the Aaliyah Boston. There's no doubt she's probably the most dominant player down low in women's basketball. Almost no doubt about it. But I mean, for me, it's not necessarily like it's like Aaliyah Boston and then Kunane. For me, it's like Aaliyah Boston, Kunane. Like, I mean, she's right there. I mean, Kunane, when she's feeling it, she's got moves. She can get the ball to the basket one way or another. So, but one other point which I wanted to add in too, which I was looking at as well when I was looking at stats was for those who don't know, so Reynolds after the renovations holds basically 5,600 give or take in terms of capacity. We averaged 4,700 fans a game throughout the season. So basically on average, we had about an 84% crowd capacity on average throughout the season, which I mean is it just speaks volumes.
It's pretty good for a small gym.
Yeah, pretty good for a small gym. Yeah, I like it. That's right, Greg.
Yeah.
Put that on a board somewhere. All right. So now moving on to offensive MVP. So Michael, who do you got for offensive MVP?
I mean, I still go with Kinane here because, like I said, just her, her impact to the offense and the way that teams have to guard NC State is just it's almost you can't describe the impact she has.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, Greg.
Yeah, I kind of want to go out on a limb here, but I want to say Diamond Johnson, but what's holding me back for Diamond is her assist to turnover ratio.
Mm-hmm.
She had 78 assists and 71 turnovers. If she knocks that down by half, I think she's clear cut offensive MVP because just everything that she does on the offense side, she facilitates, she can shoot, she can do pretty much everything, and she was only about 2.5 points, 3 points away from Kunane's average.
Yep.
Playing in a 6-person, I always want to say 6-man. I don't want to be sexist, but I'll say 6-person role.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But so if you think about it, she wasn't playing nearly the same amount of minutes as Kunane. So again, if the turnovers are probably cut in half, Diamond Johnson's my offensive MVP, but I'm going to still stick with Kunane.
Yep. Well, and and I think too with Diamond that if we're talking again, like if we're talking in terms of talent or potential, there's no doubt Diamond has probably the most talent or potential of this team. But I could argue, honestly, she has the potential to arguably be the most talented player to ever play at NC State women's basketball, period. I mean, arguably. And that'll never be like there's no doubt about it kind of deal, unless you're talking David Thompson for men's basketball. But for women's basketball's sake, I mean, obviously that's always going to be an argument. But I mean, just
should be in a conversation
for sure. So, and for me, so I kind of want to go a different route because I want to show, kind of talk about some other players, but Kayla Jones for me is actually my offensive MVP. So she averaged 8.7 points a game. She only had basically 0.9 turnovers per game. So she took care of the ball. Averaged a little bit over 2 assists a game, shot 53.8% from the field, 41% from the three, and she was actually second on the team behind Kunane in offensive rebounds. So not only did she and she also had on average 1.3 offensive rebounds a game. So basically, like for me, she did everything. She shot the three. She scored on, consistently, game in, game out. She took care of the ball. She could get the ball on the boards to get second chance points. So for me, that's really why I kind of lean towards Kayla, because I mean, she could do it all on the offensive side this year. So I mean, hats off to her for sure. So I mean, any yays, nays on that?
No, I could definitely see Kayla, having that impact. Again, we're splitting hairs on some of this. I would have liked some more consistency from Kayla.
Yes.
Where she did take over some games because she had that potential.
Mm-hmm.
But again, there's just so much talent there. And here's the other thing that we haven't even talked about. the unselfishness of this team. They put their egos up on the shelf, and they played for each other. So they weren't afraid to make the extra pass or play in reduced minutes. So like that right there, I think everyone's the MVP in that regard. Amen. Because there's a lot of teams that we be like it's a new generation of player. It's the social media player. They want, their NIL deals. There's so many things that can, kind of bite you in the rear. And this team put all that aside for the greater good of making a championship run. So, but yeah, I mean, there's so many players you can pick from where, we only had 2 people in double figures, but we had 3 others that were on the cusp of double figures. They were like a 1.4 away from double figures. Yep. So this team could have easily had five players in double figures for the season.
Absolutely. Well, and because one stat too, and one player that we haven't mentioned yet, but I know will get mentioned here soon, is Jada Boyd. And because one thing I wanted to kind of talk about here, so I actually did some math here. So Jada Boyd averaged this year 7.6 points a game and 4.4 points a game, but she only played an average of 16 minutes a game. And so one of the things which I did was I said, okay, well, let's try and do some math, and assuming that she keeps that same consistency throughout the game. So Kunane averaged 25.8 minutes a game. So let's do some multiplication and do it up. So if Jada theoretically had the same minutes per game, she would have averaged 12.3 points a game and 7.1 rebounds a game compared to Kunane's 13.7 and 7.6. So basically what I'm getting at is that I think that honestly Jada Boyd has kind of been one of those unsung heroes, specifically in the tournament. I think that in the tournament, in terms of ACC and NCAA, she played amazing, really, in my eyes. Every single game NC State played, she played really well. She played really efficient minutes. So that's really one thing that I'm honestly the most excited about, assuming hopefully that she comes back next season, is that I think she's going to be a huge piece next year on top of Jakia Brown-Turner, Camille Hobby, and Diamond Johnson. So very excited about her. Before we continue, I want to take a quick second to tell you about our sponsor, Flatlands Jessup Insurance Group, that has your whole world covered, with agents in 5 offices throughout eastern North Carolina to help you decide how much coverage you need. Offering policies for home and auto, recreational vehicles, commercial, crop, health, life, and employee benefits. They are able to combine options to find a comprehensive solution that works for you. Flatlands Jessup protects the things you love so you can spend less time worrying and more time enjoying them. Find them on Facebook and Instagram at Flatlands Jessup. You can also visit their webpage at www.flatlandsjessup.com. So please make sure to go and check them out. So Greg, defensive MVP, who you got?
I mean, it's got to be Kai Crutchfield for me. Yep. I mean, she was always the lockdown defender, playing their number one scoring option, assuming that it wasn't a center. But she was always put on the best guard on the other side. So yeah, and again, I think she could have had more points as well. If we're going back to the offensive side, she gave up her offensive game because we know she had it. I mean, she would hit threes in the most needed situation, and she put that, again, back to my unselfishness comment, she put that aside, said, you know what, if you want me to be the lockdown defender, I'll be that. I'm willing to sacrifice 5 to 7 points a game for the better of them not scoring 5 to 7 points. Yep. And so you look at those potential swings, and that's the margin of victory in some of these games.
Absolutely. Yeah, for me, I definitely had Kai Crutchfield. I think that just because she was a name that throughout the season, well, first of all, it seemed like she was always guarding the best player, which says a lot. But also too, like even in the UConn game, she made some great defensive plays. She had 12 blocks, 39 steals, and 96 defensive rebounds this year. So again, a great defensive performance for sure for Kai. So I mean, I think this is going to be more likely. I mean, hey, unless Michael shocks the world here. So Michael, go ahead. Let's see if you shock the world here.
No, I mean, yeah, she was clearly the best defender. She, like you said, she was always on the other team's best offensive player. Shout out Diamond Johnson too, though. She was the leader in the team in steals. She had, I think it's 1.3 per game, and it's not even
for the season.
Not even playing a starting role as a 6th person.
Yep. And but one more piece of praise though for Jada, which I got to give actually, is actually did some more math, and she actually had the most blocks per minute for the team, and she actually tied with Kunane for the most defensive rebounds per minute. So I mean, it's again just now again, I know you can't really put somebody up there that doesn't really play a ton of minutes, because I think that Kai had over 1,000 minutes of playing time, and Jada had probably 600, something like that. So but I mean, just wanted to kind of point out there that not only those stats I just put out on the offensive side, but on the defensive side as well. I mean, imagine her in a starting role. I mean, that's juicy for sure. That's exciting.
To your point, Kai had 1,063 minutes and Jada was 497.
Okay, so even a bigger differential than I thought.
Even more limited.
So,
that's right. Yep. So again, that just speaks volume to what your stats were saying.
Absolutely. All right. So moving on to most improved. So for me, I'm doing, of course, Diamond Johnson. And basically how I did this is I compared the first game of the year compared to the last game of the year. And so when we played South Carolina, there's because basically for the games, I looked at two different things. Basically, what do the stats say, and what do the the on court performance say? And so in terms of stats, so versus South Carolina, she shot 2 of 12. She was 0 for 6 from the 3, had 1 assist and 2 turnovers. Versus UConn, she was 3 for 6, 2 for 3 from the 3, and 1 steal. So obviously not like whoa, like, yeah, that's crazy difference. Like, but one thing I have to say is, obviously with USC, when we played South Carolina, it was just clear that she was still in this mode of like, I have to be the team. I have to be like I have to do it all myself. And like, but so I think that's basically what it was. It was basically just Diamond Johnson just not being used to, playing in like an environment where it's like, hey, I have people around me that are, just as good, if not better than I am. Like, shocker. And so, but then also too, in the UConn game, you could see that she was settled in, but also two other things which I liked was, first of all, I mean, she made some key plays and some huge shots at key times. But also too, this other thing as well is that when we had the chance to win the game at the end of regulation, it wasn't Raina who had the ball. It wasn't Kai Crutcher who had the ball. It was Diamond Johnson that was leading the play out, which I mean, I think says a lot in terms of Westmore's growth and trust in her. So that's really for me why, I mean, for me, Diamond Johnson was a clear most improved player for me from start to finish. So, Michael, who you got?
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to agree with you. I mean, it was just like you said, obviously she wasn't on the team last year, so you can't compare that. But, just from the beginning of the season to the end of the season, yeah, she took many, many leaps forward. And she's shown she's definitely going to be a star in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And because one other thing too, before I pass on to you, Greg, as well, that I want to mention is, I mean, it's kind of scary to think about, heading into next season, because obviously Diamond Johnson is going to be the lead point guard like Raina was this offseason. So I mean, I can't even like it excites me in my head thinking about an entire offseason where Westmore basically just sits down with Diamond and just like, like basically now she's gotten used to the offense. So now let's build on that. It's like, that's so exciting. So Greg, I know you've been praising a lot for Diamond. I know Macon, even though he's not with us, he did a lot of praising for Diamond as well. So I'm assuming this is going to be a sweep on it as well.
Yeah, I wanted to go Jakia Brown-Turner, but I looked at her stats. Her stat lines were a little bit lower than last year. Again, and I just think part of that is because of the dynamics of this team was so good. I don't think she didn't look for her shot as much as she could have. So if I'm going to go most improved next year, that's probably who I'm going to probably go with. At least my preseason pick
prediction. Yeah.
But yeah, I think I'm going to have to stick with Diamond as well, just because this. So here's the other thing. It's really hard to find a most improved on this team. Like, that's how good this team was coming into this season. Yeah. So you really had to dig to try to, you got creative with yours, right, to try to come up with for Diamond. And so like this team was already loaded with all the seniors coming back, the super seniors. It was really hard to take that next step even more because we were so good. So yeah, I'll stick with Diamond there on that one as well.
Yeah, and another name, like Greg said, I did have a hard time picking somebody, but I was also looking at Kayla Jones. She was just, her shooting percentage was improved. She was more efficient, less fouls, less turnovers per game. Overall, her stat, like points and rebounds, was down from last year, but so was a lot of people. A lot of the players on the team.
Exactly.
Just I guess just the team dynamic between last year and this year. But yeah, just efficiency wise, Kayla Jones improved.
Yep, absolutely. So to kind of round this thing off here, is our Ice Woman Award, and so basically what this award is basically who's in our opinion, is the most clutch player this season for the team, and it's not necessarily like a number of like who made the most clutch shots, or it's just basically in our eyes who was the most clutch player for this team throughout the season. So Greg, let me hand it off to you if you're okay with that.
Yeah. Man, I really went back and forth with Raina and Kai on this one. In the end, I did give it to Raina because of her running the show and everything runs through her.
Yeah.
And so whether that's, the perfect pass to, get to an outlet to someone to shoot a three that was crucial, or, obviously the play Notre Dame, and that was kind of my tiebreakers because everything ran through her. That's the reason I gave it to Raina over Kai. But they were, in my book, they were neck and neck.
Yeah.
As I destroy my setup.
Michael, who you going with?
Yeah, I'm going with Raina too. I mean, like Greg said, she was just so steady as the leader of the team out there. Even the games we got down, UNC and Louisville, I don't think we come back without her and a leader like that on the floor.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, it's funny. Kind of heading into this recording, actually, I was actually thinking, believe it or not, Jakia. And I'll explain why, but
it's not bad.
I'll explain why I kind of just changed my mind as you guys were talking. So, I mean, taking a look at that last shot. I mean, just that last shot against UConn. So, I mean, because like thinking about in terms of like that the huddle, and talking about the play, like I feel like it just speaks so much volumes that literally, like, you knew the situation where, okay, we need one person to take a 3-point shot, and it's probably going to be a tough 3-point shot to give us a chance to extend our season. But if that player misses it, then we're going home. Like what a situation that is. That isn't, like, who in the heck, like, would accept that situation? And literally they decide,
it's an immense amount of pressure,
and they decide for Jakia Brown Turner to do that. And not only was it everything tough and then some, as I explained it to be, being directly in the corner, she's a right-hander, so she's basically shooting more from the baseline than basically out from towards the center. Paige Beckers was right in her face, basically at the buzzer, and she absolutely drained it. It wasn't a boink boink. It wasn't off the bank. It was a swisheroonie, baby. Yeah. And so like for me, it's just like, okay, if Westmore literally said, I'm going to trust Jakia Brown Turner to take that shot, I feel like it's hard for me to argue otherwise. She's got to be the most clutch player this year. And she made the best of it. Golly. But the reason why I kind of flip kind of mid talk is basically that during that play, there were two people that touched the ball once the ball was inbound, and that was Raina Perez and that was Jakia Brown Turner. And I do agree with you that, because again, I'm thinking about that, but also I'm thinking about with Raina, and there's no doubt with Raina that she's had many huge plays this season. Obviously, being a leader, leading a lot of huge comebacks. Again, mainly the one over Louisville. Again, we obviously was super clutch with coming up with the steal when we needed it against Notre Dame, and also on top of it, making both the free throws to make it a 3-point game versus Notre Dame as well. That was a huge clutch play as well. And then on top of it, she made a perfect pass that Jakia Brown needed to basically shoot the ball in stride, shuffle, catch, bam, and so that was a perfect pass. So that's why so again, coming into this, I would have probably said Jakia if you guys hadn't talked first, but after you kind of talked it through, I was like, yeah, you can't, you got to give Raina, like she was just so clutch this whole season. So but anyway, that again, it's a fun conversation piece. It's like, how do you really
not
define
wrong in any
clutch?
way, right?
Say again?
Yeah.
Well, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
You're not wrong. I mean, we're all pumping these ladies up as they justly deserve.
Absolutely.
So like we're not,
yeah.
Like they're all amazing. Like at the end of the season, like this is going to be one that when we go on to win a national championship here in the next probably 4 to 5 years, we're going to look back and go, that group of ladies, they're the reason we're here today, because all they're going to do is just elevate the program, right? They already did that. You got better recruits coming in. Like everything just takes the next step,
right?
Logically.
Yep.
Absolutely. Just like we said, again, this team, when you get to an elite level, when you're not rebuilding, you're reloading. And there's no doubt with this program that every single year we're not going to be rebuilding. We're going to be reloading. And because I want to preface too by saying that when you say in the next 4 to 5 years, it's within the next 4 to 5 years. I mean, heck, who knows?
Correct.
It could happen next year. I mean, golly, we're gonna have a great team next year.
And I support that.
I mean, it's like, who knows? So, but yeah, no. Yeah. So again, really want to kind of wrap this thing up by again saying, just like Greg said it best. I mean, this was an amazing year. It was an amazing team, arguably one of the most talented teams we've had in terms of NCAA women's basketball to date. And it was a special season. So many huge moments. Again, the comeback against Louisville, the win against Notre Dame in the tournament, this UConn game, even though it came down to a loss, it was one of I would dare somebody to find me 5 better women's basketball games in the history of college women's basketball in that game. It was an unbelievable game. So anyway though, so thank you all so much again for tuning in. Really appreciate y'all's support. And Greg, do you have any closing comments here?
Only thing I would say is, look, if you're a Wolfpack fan, go out, go see these women play. If you haven't gone to a game at Reynolds, do it. If you haven't been to Reynolds in years, go do it. There's nothing like going to a game at Reynolds. And then when these teams make these runs in like these different tournaments, whether it's wrestling or, men's baseball or football coming up hopefully this year, let's go out and support these teams. They deserve it.
Amen.
There's nothing like going on a road trip and meet fellow Wolfpack fans that share your same passion. I met so many great people, out in Omaha. That's where I met you, Leighton. We've talked about, I've met some folks here at the women's tournament up in Bridgeport. These are friends now that I'm going to have for years. And, we can talk about this, and it's a great time. So I encourage anyone that's out there that's, on the fence about going on these trips or going to see these other teams, go out and do it. They deserve our support.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Absolutely.
Michael, did Greg say it perfectly, or do you have anything to add to it?
No, he said it perfectly.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all so much again for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Again, make sure again hit that subscribe button. Give this video a like if you don't mind. Also, give us a follow. Tuffy Talk Now. But hope you all really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you all so much. As always, go Pack, y'all.